Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Akil, and if you're interested in software education, this episode is for you. We look into HackYourFuture, a not-for-profit organization which teaches refugees skills and knowledge they need to become software engineers. Joining me today are Stas and Utku. And Stas is actually the education director, which is really cool, and worked at big companies like Uber. And Utku is a senior software engineer as well as a mentor in that program. So enjoy! For today's topic, I wanted to mainly discuss about software education as well as the future and looking forward to it. And Stas, I was looking into your background and I saw you had many years actually before you joined HackYourFuture at Uber, which I thought was very interesting. How was that switch and when did you decide to make that switch?
It was pretty dramatic switch for me, that's for sure. The switch is huge because Uber is a big corporate company. You get this luxurious office and all the benefits that you can only ask. And also the work is quite demanding. You probably know the company. It has a really difficult, very complicated business to maintain. And you really feel it as an engineer as well, right? So there's always something that you need to take any law in a country that you need to engineer something just special for this country. And the change, how did I get it? Basically, HackYourFuture has only 4 people who are on the payroll. It's a really small organization. And the education director, the previous one, Rob, decided to leave. And that happens only once every few years.
Oh, wow.
And I myself, I was volunteering in HackYourFuture for a really long time, for 4 years. And they just thought that I can be a great fit. And they tried to offer me to apply. And First, I was really thinking it's because definitely the Uber has its benefits and the comfort, I decided just to go for it. This is how I got to this position, and it was also pretty smooth onboarding for me because I was already volunteering, so I know the community, I know the people, I know how things work from the outside. Then it really helped me out.
Yeah, that's nice. Utku, how did you get involved? Because I know you're more from the volunteer side.
Yeah, actually, when I first started as an intern in KLM, I had another intern, fellow intern, that he was already volunteering in HackYourFuture.
Okay.
And then I got the idea, maybe I can do it as well. And and then I think not immediately, but after 2 years, then I started also mentoring in HackYourFuture and part of the community.
That's nice. How many volunteers or how many mentors are in the space?
Maybe this question should go to Stas.
You want to take that?
How many volunteers? We have a couple of dozens. It's hard to really measure because some of them are more active than the others. But we have a few dozen volunteers who are in the community. We can say that that are sometimes we don't expect, obviously, from the volunteers to be super active. They have their own day jobs and their lives, so sometimes they cannot. They're busy with something like family, and so they do a break. But they're still in the community.
Nice. And in a nutshell, what does HackYourFuture do, and what is it in the first place?
HackYourFuture is it's a bootcamp. It's coding bootcamp for people from a refugee background in the Netherlands. We offer a 7 months intense program teaching web development, full stack development for the trainees, and it's completely free for the trainees. We try to do the best to make it as accessible as possible to the people from the refugee background. And the goal of this program is eventually to help them to find their first job in the IT market and place them into the Dutch labor market.
And how many or how big are the classes or year-to-year people usually?
Yeah, we have about 5 classes. We call them cohorts.
Okay.
It's about 5 every year, and for every cohort we have between 10 to 15 people. So it's about we try to graduate 50 trainees per year.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I like looking at the market, and right now the market is not what it was kind of a couple of years ago. Have you also seen the impact of that? Because if the aim is to get them their first job, I know especially for people that are early in career, it's a bit more rough currently.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that really we really feel that. It was very easy a couple of years ago. We were able to find an internships before they finished the program.
Yeah.
So that's nice, that's good. But now it's slowed down. So we do feel that it's slowed down. It's a little bit harder to find, especially junior and intern positions. However, on the good side, we still have the same number of percentage of people, of trainees who find a job. It's just the only difference, it takes longer now. So we still keep our goals, and just they have to wait a little bit longer.
How long is it then? What they have to wait now?
Well, now it's on average is between 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
It sometimes can be faster, sometimes can be take a little bit longer. It really depends on many factors, especially the main factor is the location where they live.
Yeah.
Because many of our trainees, sometimes they don't choose to which city they get to live. So we have trainees from really far away. If you have someone who's in the edge of the Netherlands next to the German border, it's going to be a little bit harder to find a company over there.
Yeah.
And we, of course, don't want them to travel 2 hours a day to Amsterdam. So it can take a little bit more time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Utku, from your side, how are you involved in kind of the education system? You mentioned volunteer and then growing into a mentor role.
Yeah. So basically, in Hack Your Future, we have several modules in the curriculum. So each module is a basically different topic related to programming, like HTML, CSS, and CLI, Git, and JavaScript, Node.js. So I'm a front-end engineer, but I thought, okay, maybe I can develop myself in backend as well.
Okay.
And I also enjoy it. So I thought, okay, let's try mentoring Node.js. And I requested it, and it got accepted immediately. Then I started preparing for that. And curriculum is already open source, and it also benefits me, not only students. I went through the curriculum and then prepared for the module. And I think it was 2 years ago that I mentored Node.js module. And it went well, actually. I asked feedback from students.
Yeah.
Then I thought, okay, I can continue with it. And I think since then I've been teaching Node.js, like probably 8 to 10 cohorts, so classes. We call it cohorts.
Yeah.
And other than that, I also taught CLI Git. So basically, what I feel myself comfortable with, and what I feel like, okay, which module I can be the most helpful for them.
But were you comfortable in the Node.js module then? Because you said like this is more of a also learning for you then.
I think, yeah, definitely. In the beginning it was,
Yeah.
but I think, nowadays I'm way more comfortable. So it also benefited me, actually, not only the students. It's win-win, actually. You volunteer for them, you share your experience, and I would like to mention it's not only the technical knowledge. You also share your experience, basically, what kind of struggles they can have when they started, like, because they frequently come up with questions like this.
Yeah.
Like when you finish the technical side of the session, in the end they always try to ask, okay, how it will be working in a team, how it will be, what kind of struggles we can potentially have. So also you have a chance to reflect on those. And also, we have this popular imposter syndrome for new, basically beginners in IT. And it's so easy to crack sometimes. And I feel like they really need some opinions and insights on that. So basically you are trying to give confidence to them as well. Like you will start, and maybe in the beginning you might be a little bit vulnerable, and you might need some support system around you, but it will get better. It will get always better by the time. So those kind of insights, I think it also really helps them. And it's not only the technical knowledge transfer, basically.
Yeah.
It's just one part of it. And I really enjoy it in general, and I'm looking forward to teaching other modules as well. Community and the management is always open for that. And also we are trying to get feedback and how it feels like for them. So it's not like, okay, I will teach this and I'm able to do it. No, but what students say about that. So that's really important.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, for me, if I think about what makes a good professional, it has a few aspects, right? And it starts with knowledge, and knowledge you usually gain through traditional education systems, skills there as well, but more so when you actually start with hands-on experience at a job. And then you have more so, I would say advanced topics, which is like resources, So how many resources do you have available to get stuff done, basically, within a team or within an organization? What is your reputation, and then what is your network, right? Because if you have a network and you need something which is outside of your area of expertise, then you can still find it. But how do these categories kind of fit into the education system that you've developed?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we really think as HackYourFuture is more than a community rather than a bootcamp. We have the volunteers that are senior developers in really good companies, anything from Backbase or Booking and Adyen, the really nice companies, and they actually have the expertise.
Yeah.
And in fact, they are also the volunteers who they are actually helping to contribute to the curriculum as well. Because I'm only one education director, I cannot do everything myself. I wish I had time to do it, but I really get the expertise of those developers. And that reflects not only in the curriculum, but also in the day-to-day training and the classes. Our trainees can always ask the mentors some questions, even after graduation. So they still, while they're looking for the job, they're still in the community. If maybe they're working on a side project, they need some help, so they can reach out to me or some mentor, or there's like a Slack that we are in, and they can just ask anyone. And usually people answer quite fast. So we have this kind of community of experts. We have not only tech experts, we also have people who are volunteering as HR to help with some interview training, and also recruiters, product managers, project leads. So we have a little bit of everything, and English teachers as well, because English is one very important aspect to finding an IT job, especially in the Netherlands, and especially that we kind of try to find an English-speaking environment. That's the best shot for us. So we have this kind of nice pool of experts that we can always consult.
And how much do you balance then let's say the soft skills side and more so the people side versus the actual hard skills, more technical aspects in the education?
I think it's 50-50, I would say. Yes, we do have a program which is 7 months and very technical, very intense with all the technologies. But we also, along the program, we also teach them a lot of soft skills. For example, how do you write a resume? How do you present yourself, like verbally in an interview? How do you write a good cover letter? We teach this, we do some workshops for CV making. So they make their own CVs, they get feedback from us. And then, and also along the program, we also encourage them to communicate with us. A lot of things that sounds maybe trivial for you, for people who already work many years in IT, but things that if you're late for a meeting, so you should maybe say that I'm sorry, I'm 5 minutes late, not arrived. And we really try to get them familiar with this kind of a culture, of a working culture.
Yeah, the work ethics, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of professionals in general can still learn from a lot of work ethics. I'll just keep it to that specifically. What I usually say on this podcast is I can imagine a lot of things happening to people, but when it comes to specifically refugees, I have no idea what they've gone through. So this project or this organization and the fact that you're involved in that, for me, is very admirable. But how does it differ, for example, from a traditional bootcamp or a traditional educational system? Because, for example, I also had people from Kodam on, and they very much look towards education in this space in a similar way. But you have a very distinct group of people that you work with, which are refugees. How do you think it's different, or what are some of the challenges that you've seen in educating refugees?
Yeah, actually, these people might have really interesting things happened in their history. So it's really hard to empathize about that, and that really reflects differently on each of them.
Yeah,
and most of them living in refugee camps. They might have their first house from the government. Maybe they are just living there a couple of months, and they are trying to find a job, because then the municipality is maybe putting some pressure on that to find a job in an earliest possible time. So they are going through a lot of psychological pressure, actually. And this community is, I think the first thing is giving some relaxation to them, because everybody kind of in the same situation. They have their peers in the same situation, and the aim is kind of the same. Just getting the knowledge required and going through the curriculum and going through the period for graduation, and then trying to find a job. And the community is there to support them, and the community already has the experience last I don't know, about at least 4 or 5 years doing the same thing. And and there are a lot of success stories already. Refugees that they are now senior engineers. They are now principal engineers in really nice companies. So this gives a lot of confidence both to the community and the current students. And also, when they started their internship or junior position, the support is not basically gone. It's always there, and they still keep communicating because it's just another start, stepping into a new career. For most of them, it's a new career. Some of them already had a degree in computer science, maybe, or related programs, but some of them don't have any technical background. So they still need support. So basically, we are trying to give them support after their first internship or junior position, and eventually we are also having some of them really trying to give back to the community and requesting, can I mentor now? So can I do the same thing? Because that really creates a really nice cycle, and also students also find that kind of mentorship really interesting, that there is someone just went through the same struggles and ended up in a really nice position and trying to help them. So that's really feeds the soul of this movement, let's say.
That's very powerful. I can imagine that someone that has gone through that and then is educating gives a lot of credibility, right? And then you can actually empathize on a different level than, for example, I would, because I haven't gone through what people go through there. That's very interesting.
And Gijs, the founder of HackYourFuture, is always telling us that the goal of HackYourFuture, what the vision, is that it's for refugees, by refugees. Then it's a big win if we have more people from that background who actually contribute. Then this whole organization is really like in a nice supporting cycle.
Yeah, that makes sense. How does it differ from the bootcamp that you're doing, and let's say the education system, from more traditional education in university, for example? Because I've been in university, but it was many months back, and I know with newer technologies also, education is going to change, I feel like.
It's very different from the traditional education system. We try to focus, well, first of all, we always tell our trainees that this is not a school. So, and we always tell them that please, look at HackYourFuture as a full-time job. We ask for them to commit for 40 hours a week, just like a job, because it's quite intense. Like, it's 7 months of a program. It's really, really compact and really dense.
On-site as well? As in they have to go to a class, or?
Yeah, it happens sometimes. Okay. It's hybrid now. Before COVID, it was completely offline, and now it's hybrid. But it also mostly self-study.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's quite different from traditional, even from a traditional boot camps, because first of all, the audience is quite different, and it's a free program, and our curriculum is open source. That means that anyone who is interested can follow the curriculum, and the people, like Utku mentioned, they're very diverse and very unique. Usually in traditional education system, you have like a bunch of people in their 20s with pretty much the same background, and they all graduate and going to pretty much the same path. And here you have people from all kinds of countries, all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of previous educations, everything from not finishing high school up until like being computer science or cybersecurity experts. We had those kinds. And then every person is unique. So when they graduate, it's really interesting to see the direction they go to. And also for the education part, we try to focus more project, less of homework and assignments and tests. We try to make it as interactive as possible, and also with the goal of making the graduates job ready on day one. Then everything we do, everything we planned during the program is towards this goal. In the end of the program, there's 5 to 6 weeks of a final project. In this final project, they actually work as a small development team. Usually it's 4 people with a product manager and a tech lead. And they work together, and the mentors treat them as a junior developers. And they design something from scratch. They build something in the scale of a web shop, right? It's obviously sometimes it's different. They have their own really creative ideas, but they build a complete application which looks nice and works well, and they get to work in a team with all the conflicts and all the with all the issues that can come up.
Yeah.
And in the end, they always give me really good feedback about this part.
Yeah, that's really nice. Actually, you triggered me when I work at ING, and there might be a new person joining our team, and some of the feedback that was mentioned there for that person was there was a red flag, because she said, okay, when you disagree with someone in your team, what do you do? And her answer was, well, I just convince them to agree with me. And I was like, damn, that's a statement. Like, it could be in a funny way. Maybe it's a funny way, but it was just written on paper, so I couldn't really read it. And then also she mentioned, well, with junior developers, they're usually wrong, because that's why they're juniors. And I completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
For me, junior developers, they give a fresh perspective in that way. And especially when they already have been in a team, they know a little bit about conflict resolution, a little bit about butting heads, because at the end of the day, decisions doesn't need to be made, and it doesn't really matter who's right or wrong. We need to make a decision and then iterate and then see what's right or wrong. But in that way, they already get part of the education and part of the way of working along the way, which is something I really like.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Patrick. I saw it especially when I was working in KLM, and it was my first company in this IT industry. It was, the Dutch culture was really has a strong effect in that working environment. And what I see, that every opinion is valued. Doesn't matter where it is coming from, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your experience. It's just the opinion that people look at, and that's the important thing actually. The title doesn't really matter. It's the opinion what is important, and and that requires a lot of maturity actually. And if you are coming from different culture backgrounds, that might be a little bit different for you. And it was different for me as well. I needed to learn it, but eventually I see how much difference it makes.
Yeah, for me, it's strange, right? Because it's the culture I grew up in. Like, my parents are from Turkey originally, but I was born and raised here. So then I kind of see myself as Dutch. Like, I would ask my parents, what am I? They were like, you're Dutch, right? It's the simplest term. So that for me is normal. And then when it's not normal for people, it kind of shocks me that it would not be normal that an opinion is valued, or that we consider it and that we talk it out, or that we have to kind of find alignment, and it's not just my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So when someone says that, it kind of irks me or triggers me, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because it's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the education standpoint, I've been looking at mainly Gen AI tools. I think a lot of people have. And for me, it's interesting if you have this bootcamp where people at the end of the road need to find a job, right? That's the aim. How do you then focus on to educate them when it comes to technical skills? Because, for example, when something new would pop up, a new cloud technology, you can focus on that, but it's not established yet, so that might not be wise. How have you chosen what technologies to focus on when it comes to educating?
Yeah, this is exactly one of the challenges in my position, is that I get to decide what direction we go. And you're correct. Like, every day there's something new. Now there's this AI thing, and there's millions of things that I want to include to the program, but we cannot make it a 4-year course. We have to graduate and find a job. The faster the better. What we do is we do some kind of prioritization. Like, we tried now with full stack development, because this is like the highest chance and the most demanding roles in the IT industry. Like a web developer, if you know how to write a nice React application, a little bit of backend, then there's a high chance there are quite a lot of positions open for you. And regarding what exactly we teach, well, first I get a lot of advice from the community, from people who actually work in the companies, right? Who actually work with those technologies, and they can advise, like, is it a good thing? Is it what direction is it going? And we do, using our mentors, we do keep the program alive. It's open source, so anyone can contribute. I do manage the whole process of it, but most of the contribution is coming from the mentors. I think Utku couple of weeks ago, we actually added a new week to the Node.js model. So we added some authentication model, and we built it together with Utku, and now it's live. And it's a lot of feedback that we also collect from mentors who see the curriculum, they give their advice, and also from graduates who actually going to companies, and they told me that, oh, we use this technology. I wish we would teach HackYourFuture in HackYourFuture this technology as well. So it's hard, it's challenging. I need to,
you have to make decisions.
I need to basically collect all the information, all the feedback, which can be really contrary between mentors. Right?
Yeah.
Some mentor will like this framework, some others will like this framework, and then we need to see okay, so what will be the best thing to put into the program to maximize and increase the chances for them to find a job, basically.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that it's not just static, right? Because it can very much be static, but I'm happy because technology is evolving, that the education also evolves with it. That just goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And what I would like to mention, the curriculum being the open source, is something that sometimes students, trainees, they are finding some issues with the documentation or maybe an out-of-date technology, a feature, and they are just coming to us, hey, this link doesn't work anymore. So what I do, I just encourage them to create their first PR, basically.
Yeah.
First PR to their own curriculum. So just before joining a company. So you can just make a PR. It doesn't matter. You can be a trainee right now. You don't have to be a mentor.
Yeah.
Just create a PR. Someone will review it, and the curriculum with that contribution, basically. And the curriculum is also really flexible, as Stas mentioned. Node.js used to be a 2 weeks module before, but I realized that the API testing part is a little bit complex for them, and I need to put some extra explanation for that, and we just extended it to the 3 weeks. We both included API testing and also the authentication part, so that's also really nice. They are getting some experience with authentication, which is really crucial in real world. So they already have some idea and the idea about the implementation of it.
Yeah. Whenever I meet people that do either mentorship or something like you, that you educate outside of your day-to-day work, it really inspires me. And I'm really curious, because you started this program, how has it made you a better software engineer, or if any? Because I'm assuming it has.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do it voluntarily, but it's just out of my control, contributing a lot to my own skills as well, especially the mentorship. Because, helping out people, that also means that transitioning into your skills that you are using in actual work environments. So helping out other engineers, basically. Also emotionally, empathy. I think you are developing a lot on that. And I think there are a lot of benefits, especially if you are doing it voluntarily. There's this extra soul in the process.
Yeah. Do you see yourself moving to more, let's say, less and less hands-on and more people aspects? Because you're still very much hands-on when it comes to the education part.
Yeah, I think a lot about this. Actually, my previous engineering manager encourages me a lot going into that leadership direction.
Yeah.
But I think eventually I just decided my hands are not shaking yet. So I can still program. But just delay that leadership position.
And one of the questions I get many times in Q&A episodes that I do is people that really look towards the skills that people need early in career. From your side, since you've been involved from the education more on the hands-on side, what do you think makes a really good software engineer, let's say, early in career?
I think what I also suggest trainees is that they are asking me what we should do in the interviews, especially after graduation. What I say them is that don't put all your energy into technical skills, because the companies will be aware already that you don't have past experience much. So your technical skills would be limited in any case. But the soft skills is something that you could have already you can already have, basically. So that doesn't matter if you have experience or not. So if you can do empathy, or if you can be patient towards your colleague, those kind of things are already in your character, some kind of. But you can still develop them. But just emphasize on those skills, especially in the interviews. And after the interview, in your traineeship or in your internship, in your junior position, just emphasize those soft skills. Just focus on them and show them. You are technically limited, but you are a brilliant person in the team as a team player. So I think that's a really good strategy, in my opinion, because technical skills they just build up by time, and at some point even there is this diminishing return. But soft skills are not like that. Like, there are really nice engineers in the industry, like they are helping out their colleagues, they are leading them, they are teaching them. Those are really valuable things. I think the technical part is just falling behind, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's very interesting though, because the technical aspects, that's usually what gets really drilled down when you go through an interview process, right? Especially at bigger companies. I mean, I've applied to Uber. I get a HackerRank kind of leak code test that I have to do before I talk to people. So especially in bigger organizations, it's there. But then this focus on education, 50-50 skills and technology, as well as then the soft skills. How do people then still get over that initial hurdle when it comes to entering a company? Because they really drill down on the technical level, even for juniors sometimes.
Yeah, from what I hear, well, for some graduates it's easier than others. That's obviously different people. How do they do it? Some of them already got a good mentorship from us, so it's already, they know what to expect. So that helps from time to time. I forgot to mention, but also during the program, they have technical interviews with me. So they build a project and I just have a technical interview. I just ask them around, show me how to do. And also in this technical interview, I also kind of check their presentation skills, their explanation skills. What happens if they don't know a question, an answer to a question? And they sometimes they just make up something. So I tell them, don't do that, for example. And for some trainees it's obvious. For some others it's not obvious, and we try to make it aligned. I mean, HackYourFuture has a pretty good reputation amongst some companies that our graduates are high quality and they're really motivated. I think if they're motivated to learn and to change and to get familiar with the new environment, I think they can do everything they want to in this company, and they overcome the challenges of those social skills, for example. During the internship, we also have some evaluation. So we talk to the companies that hired them as interns. So we get a feedback as well from the companies. And if the companies choose, for example, not to hire them as a full-time, which not happens too often, then we always ask for feedback. How can the trainee can improve? So we continue working with them and collecting this feedback. Also with job interviews that did not result in a success, we also get the feedback from them. Okay, you did that. Maybe focus on this technically, or maybe you're good technically, but focus on this skill. So it's dynamic.
Thing. And it's a whole lot, I feel like, that you can focus on or that you need to land your first job in the first place. And then from software engineering, you can grow to various technical sides. Like you can focus more on cloud technologies or indeed more DevOps related things and go into the ops side. And the technologies and observability, for example, is a big topic. Or you can go more towards the people side, indeed more product related or more team related, working on more productivity and efficiency within a team. And then starting out, you need to have this kind of solid fundamentals to start off from, because then it's easier to grow into the other topics. Exactly. And I'm wondering how much is going to change, because a lot of, let's say, easier tasks from what I've seen online and with ChatGPT as well as other Gen AI tools get more easily generated nowadays. So then I feel like the role of a junior software engineer will also change, but I'm not sure what that will look like later on. With the tools and even with the automation that you've used, what do you think junior developers will do more so towards the future?
Well, that's an interesting question, actually. I think a lot of people already thinking about it in the industry. But in my opinion, we shouldn't limit this to the junior engineers. It will change. If it will change something, I think it will change it for everybody.
I agree.
Not only junior engineers.
Yeah.
So what I think personally, maybe the writing code, this action, even may disappear, but still this written auto-generated code should be reviewed by someone, at least for now, it should definitely be reviewed. Sometimes I just give Copilot, GitHub Copilot or ChatGPT to write some function. It is being so complex, actually, it can be separated into several functions, let's say.
Yeah.
It will improve. It's just a matter of time, and it's not a matter of 1-2 years, probably 1-2 months. It's going so fast. But we need people to review this code, auto-generated code. And also, I think we should focus on the main responsibility of the engineers being the problem solving, actually. It's not writing code. It's not, maybe it's not even programming. They are just aspects of it, but the actual thing is problem solving. And if someone is a problem solver, if someone is a good problem solver at the moment, I think they will still stay as a good problem solver. They will still be needed by companies. So, but the actions can change, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I can play devil's advocate because, first of all, I agree that we are problem solvers, but we're also maintainers. Yeah. And there is a knowledge gap that when the role changes into reviewing generated code, then how do you get the knowledge to be able to review the generated code? Because you need to look at, it solves the problem, but then is it maintainable or is it scalable? Those become the new bottlenecks, I feel like. And I haven't seen a solution for that yet when it comes to people that enter this tech field then.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I would like to ask this question.
What is your take, Stas?
Well, first, I would just want to say that I really agree with what Utku said about that. I see those Gen AI tools as just another tool to solve problems, right? 30 years ago, the developers 30 years ago, I wasn't there as a developer. They used books, right? You didn't have the Google or Stack Overflow to ask the questions. So they used books, and I assume that the internet changed the software industry also as well, right?
Yeah.
Especially for the entry barrier, right? And I think this is happening the same with AI. I think it's just another tool in the pocket of the software engineer. It's a very powerful tool, which we obviously need to use responsibly. Like for reviewing code, and it's kind of this catch-22, right? That you need to review code, you need to be really good in software engineering. But if you use AI as your junior position, then you're not good in an engineer. Then I guess you still, like, when you use AI, you're not really let him do the work for you. I think it's just like kind of a helper tool. This is how I look at it now. Of course, it can change. It's very flexible. Then it's just another. Then I think the junior engineers, that they will still have to review seniors' code. They'll still need to give like opinions about solutions. I think this is part of the job. It's not just writing code, right? So junior developers are also taken to product meetings and to solve solutions or give at least some sort of opinion about like higher level solutions. So I don't think it's just gonna go away and they'll be like really far away from the code. I think they're still gonna be there, but that's of course my opinion.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, I still think I agree with that. Sorry, what did you want to say?
Yeah, sorry. Actually, there is this kind of transition in an IT engineer's life. I think when you first start programming, you visit a lot Stack Overflow, but then you kind of transition from that phase to start reading documentation. Maybe it's a little bit more complex compared to Stack Overflow. You don't have direct examples, etc. But it's the facts, basically truth in that technology, what you are searching for. So maybe there will be a need for that kind of a transition for generative AI as well. So maybe you will start by just querying the ChatGPT, but then you will understand, okay, I need to transition into still checking the documentation. Or maybe querying the ChatGPT, not give you the direct solution, but give you the references or the facts from that documentation. I think that's a good use. So it also depends how you use ChatGPT. Yeah,
I agree. So you can use it to solve problems, but also to educate yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a lot of fun, right? Because I can use my experience and then use it more effectively. And it's very hard for me to put myself in the shoes of someone that doesn't have that, because then it's like, okay, what do I choose basically, or which one is the right way? But then if you shift that and you allow it to educate yourself in a new way, I think that can be the most powerful then.
Exactly. And I think it's really good, especially in explaining already written code, for example. I think it's a really good tool for that. There might be a code piece that you don't really understand or missing some pieces. You can just select it and ask Copilot, hey, could you explain me what's going on here, line by line?
Yeah.
And I think it's doing it great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Have you used any Gen AI, or are you planning to use Gen AI in the education space? Because at some point, you'll probably want to if it really becomes more and more established.
Yeah, that's a big topic. Well, first, my current position about it, I will not forbid using ChatGPT for almost any part of the program. Like if they want to build a project, they can use whatever they want. They can use all the Gen AI tools, but there's a technical interview, and I'll ask questions about your project.
I like
and if
that.
you don't know how to answer how things are working, then that's really bad. So I expect no problem. You can use Google, you can use all the tools you want, but it's your code. You copy something from ChatGPT, it's your code, you own it. So this is my perspective for it. Whether to include or not include, I just offer trainees for the bootcamp. They get access to a free Copilot. I encourage them to try it out. And also I encourage them, the mentors encourage them to use it in a way to explain the code more than write the code, like Utku mentioned. So you have something complicated, you see something that you've never seen before in an assignment, then you can ask ChatGPT, like, what's going on here? Or just ask general questions. What's the difference between technology A and technology B, for example? It's a great tool for this.
Yeah.
For writing code, I think it's more like, it can solve some problems, but I think they're really narrow solutions. So they cannot write a complete architecture at the moment. And whether to include it into a program, I don't see that we need to teach anything about the Gen AI. I don't consider AI at the moment as a module because, in my opinion, it's a little bit too advanced. We'll see in the future what will happen, but it also depends on the job market.
Yeah,
we have some consideration of opening maybe a model or a track for data engineering. Yeah, we're still considering a few options to go, and that involves a little bit of AI here and there. But we're still thinking about what we're going to do with this technology.
Yeah, that was one of my thoughts actually, because I think the more and more data has already kind of found its footing in becoming very important in organizational decision making. If your decision isn't based on data in any shape or form, then what is your decision based on? It's just an opinion, and you might be wrong, and then you pay the price basically. Yeah. So then the data side, as well as the data engineering side, I feel like is already very important and might become even more important in the future. But then my thought was also, software engineering is just one of the branches of technology, right? And it evolved into, starting from a base of software engineer, cloud engineer, data engineer, they're all adjacent to fundamentally software engineering at the end of the day. But even within software engineering and software engineers, you have always your starting position. I started off very much blank because I came from operations, and the question was, what do you want to focus on, front-end or back-end? And I got the option because I learned on the job. And I was like, well, in university, I always liked more of the logic part, so I focused on the back end. And later on, I tried 2 years of front-end development, and now I'm more focused on back end, or not even, because now I do product management, basically. But for people that start off, do you have kind of an advice or even a preference for them to focus on either front-end or back end? Because some people even said full stack, and that surprised me.
Maybe I can give my own example. That I was thinking being a backend engineer actually, because I had some prejudices about front-end being so simple and wouldn't really satisfy me. Then I started in internship in KLM, and after seeing the complexity of the project and the tech stack they are using, the architecture of the application, I just got amazed. Like I said, this is something really I should be doing. And it was the digital front-end department, and I was just thinking, I already found the internship and I can just switch to backend, but I just didn't do it, and I just continued because I think maybe it depends what are you looking for, and it's a preference actually for our trainees. I think we don't really encourage them which one to choose, and they are just their own preference and how they feel themselves. When they look at the Node.js module, if they enjoy it more than React, so for example, they can just compare themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah. When they graduate, we see this kind of preference. Some people really like design and UI, so they want to be front end. They want to make things that looks nice. And we also have the other way around. That's they just want to be backend. They really like Node.js model, maybe because of the great mentor Utku, and they just want to do backend. That really shows in the final project. There's this kind of split.
Okay.
And I think there's a junior position available for both ages. We actually talk to some companies that we tell them like, okay, we have those people. They're really interested into like front end, and they told us, oh, we're actually looking for a junior backend.
Yeah.
For a junior backend, I think speaking specifically for junior backends, I think they need to do an extra learning because the HackYourFuture program is a little bit focused for front end. So to be backend, maybe we encourage them to like learn maybe Java or Python, something that or Golang, something that is more commonly used as a backend technology because we see the requirements in the market for those technologies. But if you're looking for a job and you don't know, just pick something that you like, in my opinion.
Do you think there's equal opportunity? Because you also said your education is more tailored towards front end rather than back end specifically. Is it because then people transition to a first role then more easily compared to a more back end heavy education system?
Yeah, I think the transition to front end is easier, in my opinion. Also, probably the barrier, like it's easier to get into to the front end positions rather than back end because back end. Well, the backend really depends on the company. It can be really like a small API, or it can be a full-blown like banking system with so many like microservices. And of course, those tend to take someone maybe from the university who has done maybe 4 years of education. It's I think there's a little bit. I see it a little bit more for front end, but there are some backend positions as well. And also, there's a lot of small companies that they only have like 4 or 5 engineers that kind of do everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think the smaller companies usually are harder to fit in a junior position on that front because they do everything. They also need people that can do everything because they don't have many, I think, people or even the capacity to educate others.
I think actually we have a lot of small companies who want to have an intern.
Oh, that's nice.
Because they establish already a functioning team of 5 for senior or media engineers. They have the backend guy, the front-end guy, and they're now ready to maybe have an impact. Maybe they want to have a diversity in the team, and they want to have an intern. So that happens a lot. Actually, a lot of companies that we place in the Netherlands, they are small, medium companies. And usually what happens is the big companies, those companies who are actually most of the time looking for university graduates, and their bar is really high. It's really hard to get in. Those companies, and the small medium companies, the one that also have really nice environment for an interns because it's usually smaller, cozy, and the intern can get exposed to many different technologies and learn a lot of more, and also find his way, right? What his preference. Maybe he comes to a company and he falls in love in AI or backend or something else.
Does that internship then also transition into that first job experience later on, where they actually stay there indefinitely, or how have you seen that transition?
Yeah. This is the goal. We place them as an interns with the intent of the company to hire. So, and the vast majority of the cases, they hire the interns unless something is happening.
Yeah.
Unless there's like either a budget reason or maybe it's not a good fit, but that's a rare case.
That's great. Yeah. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been a blast. Before we round off in kind of this software education conversation, is there anything you still want to share?
I just would like to thank for giving this opportunity. I'm the long-time follower of the Beyond Coding.
I know.
And I really appreciate it for the invite.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Has this kind of been what you expected since you've been a listener before actually coming on for a long time?
I was just not expecting sitting really close with you. From the videos, it was like...
I'm just a person. I'm not anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that, man. What about you, Stas? Any thoughts?
It was a great experience. Thank you so much for having us. I also want to thank the HackYourFuture community, all the volunteers, because without them, HackYourFuture would not exist. We're only 4 people on the payroll and dozens of engineers and volunteers who are doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And also shout out for our trainees who are like also amazing of passing this intense program and going through it. So yeah. Thank
I
you
love
so
that.
much for having us.
Thanks for coming on, both of you. I'm going to round it off here then. I'll put all their socials in the description below, as well as a link to Hack Your Future. Check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments below. There's now comments on Spotify, actually, which is interesting. And we'll see you in the next one.